Welcome back to Sustainable Today, Successful Tomorrow, where we explore real world sustainable tourism stories that actually work. In our last discussion episode, we already shared a few highlights from my interview with Carlos, Director of Marketing and Impact at Futurismo Azores Adventures, a responsible whale watching company putting wildlife and research first. Today, I'm excited to bring you the full interview. Carlos and I talked about what it takes to offer responsible whale watching experiences, how to support scientific research, and manage traveler expectations. It was such an interesting conversation, and I hope it inspires you as much as it inspired me. I hope you enjoy. Marine wildlife watching is a jaw-dropping experience and a highlight for many travelers. But how do you successfully combine responsible wildlife watching, research, and the travel experience of a lifetime? That's what we're exploring with Carlos from Futurismo Azores Adventures. Futurismo is a family owned company with a clear purpose responsible whale watching in the Azores. With over 30 years of experience, a fleet of modern vessels, and marine biologists on board, they guarantee unforgettable encounters with whales and dolphins while following strict guidelines for responsible observation and scientific research. So, Carlos, thank you so much for being here. And let's dive in right away with the following question. If there's one thing you wish the tourism industry understood about what it really takes to offer responsible whale watching experiences, what would that be?
And for the invitation. I think culture. Basically, I think culture is the word. We do responsible well watching because there's definitely a culture within the company, within the founders, and I think it goes back all the way to even before 1990 when Futurismo was founded, and they grew up in Fayal Island and then in different islands of the Azores, but they would go along the arbors, they would meet the whalers, they would meet the fishermen. And I think this idea of transitioning, and I think what whale watching is, above anything else, is a metamorphosis of the relation that we have with cetaceans. So these guys, they saw, whale hunting. They saw what was done and they did the transition to whale watching. But, of course, they didn't do anything right in the beginning. You know, all the things that people nowadays think about sustainability probably were not done in the beginning, but there was this huge passion for the animals, but also for the whale hunting culture. It is important not to neglect that whale watching comes from whale hunting. And we are very proud of that at Futurismo because we helped actually our community shift. And the Azorians
Yeah.
shifted, changed it really quickly. So I think it's culture. Culture is the word, It's this the passion for your land, is the stewardship for your culture, and the love for the animals. I think I would say it's the key element of responsible whale watching.
That sounds really good. So, really rooted in where you come from and how you run your business. Oh, that's really interesting. And what do you feel Futurismo does differently compared to other marine wildlife watchers? So, both in the Azores, but also worldwide.
I think, being a family owned company and having this background, I think we basically integrate different things. So we don't do tourism and we do then science and then we do education and then we do cultural. No, we basically have an integrated model and we combine every single thing in every single day. So basically, tourism every single day meets science, meets culture, meets education. So I think it is a very important thing the way it is designed. So everything that we do, even before people arrive to the Azores, and it is always important to understand that as a whale watching company, you are not just going along with the clients during the participation phase of an experience. No, we actually prepare way in advance during the anticipation phase of every single experience to the Azores. Our website is currently the second largest visited in the Azores, just after Visit to
And
Search. We have a huge database of scientific research that we share online. So in our blogs, If you go to our website, you'll see all the fact sheets about every single animal. When you're going through the fact sheets, you're also seeing all the master thesis posts, all scientific articles that our research has given place to. And I think, this integrates daily because we don't have guides, we don't have marine biologists, we don't have sailors. We actually have marine biologists, are sailors and guides. So it's,
Mm.
it's all in one, and they're actually quite passionate for what they do. But when they're running you through a whale watching experience, they're also conducting research. And it's not, you know, research that you don't know why it's being used to. No, actually, for instance, we have now Margarida doing her PhD. When she's going out and we are recording sounds, etc., all of that is being used to Margarida. When we're doing
Mm.
something with dolphins, it's being used for Katerina master thesis. So, there's something that connects them daily. And I think you can see that in their eyes, when they really happy, you see that. And we try to prepare in advance through all the things we do, even something that we play along. We only have three, to be honest, but it's something that we want more, which is Futurismo guidebook. It's like short YouTube clips in which we explain people how to drive in the Azores, how to be a responsible hiker, how to save a coral water, which is a very important bird for us here. So all of these things combined, they integrate a model that does not think in boxes. We don't
Yeah.
do it's all the same for us.
How well are you actually communicating sustainability? We see many travel businesses and destinations working hard, yet they still struggle to talk about it.
And maybe you feel the same. You're afraid of being seen as greenwashing, unsure what to share, or just not really connecting with your travelers. We've been there with a lot of travel brands, and we get how frustrating it is. So, with years of experience in sustainable tourism and marketing, we've created something simple to get you started.
It's called a sustainable marketing scam. You just answer a few quick questions, we'll take a look, and if it's a good fit, we'll invite you for a short call to go through your opportunities.
You can start today at goodtourisminstitute.com/scam and turn uncertainty into a clear, compelling story.
And also, I think it's also very important to say that having marine biologists is not something that is a nice to have for us. No, it is something that is highly foundational for us. It's not that anyone is more important than anyone in the company. That's not the idea I want to give here. For instance, we have our lookouts, which are the guys that spot the whales. We have our skippers, which of course are really hard to find someone that can navigate the boats we have the way they do. But having the marine biologists is quite important because it's bringing science to your daily life, but also picking up these young kids, some of them just, fresh out of college, they do their internships, they grow with us, and are, all that they want to do in the world, you kind of feel it. So it actually improves the experience that you are giving because, you're giving more credible information from persons that studied that continuously. During winter time, they go to school. So basically, they're always refreshing what they're treating about with you. So I think that's quite important. Then, not directly in our day to day life, but we actually created, when we designed our purpose, vision, mission, we actually defined three pillars, which are people, planet, and wildlife. And why did we do it? One of the owners actually told me, we do it by heart, we don't have to say anyone. And that was our major discussion because the idea was if we are doing it correctly, we should show properly in a way that we can also, create a good impact and show others that there is a path that can be done. So the idea then is how? How do we do it in a way that is not like showing off? And, it actually took us 2 years to get to this idea. So nowadays, if you go to our website under projects, you'll see people, planet, wildlife. Every single one of them has three words associated with So people has to do, for instance, with S2E10, which is the feeling of being Azorian, culture and education. So under that pillar, you have different projects like scholarships for the University of the Azores, which are kind of different. So it's we pay the tuition plus mentorship across your degree. You have the whaling boats construction, the documentaries, all of that now fits. So every single day that we're doing different projects, they are getting fit in these pillars. And I think it also helps us, becoming more and more credible.
Yeah, exactly. And then specifically on all the scientific research, you combine it with whale watching, obviously. But how does this partnership work in practice? Do you only work with students, or do you also have marine biologists like in on place full time that are doing
Oh
actual
no,
research? You do.
no. We should have one of the largest marine biologist teams in whale watching in the world. I suppose we have more than 15 of them. Yeah, most of them are in full tenure in the company. So just to give you an idea, we did our internal materiality analysis 1.5 years ago. We had 67.7% with higher degree education in a total of 65 persons full time. So as a policy of the company, we employ our staff year round with full tenure. If you go to see the purpose of this company is to work for the betterment of tourism in the Azores and to Azorean prosperity. So, you cannot say this and not employ year-round persons. So
Yeah.
everyone in the company is employed. Of course, we have seasonal workers that come every 6 months, but some of them are people that actually choose to live like this. They go to United States, they go to Iceland. Some of them would love to have with us throughout the year because we actually cannot work at Vision if you don't have the people. And you know, it goes above and beyond that. We actually know who's planning to have a baby, who's buying a house. You know,
Yeah,
you cannot,
personal connections.
yeah, you cannot do what we do for 35 years deeply implemented in the sense of place what is the Azores and being Azorian without taking care of your own first. So
Yeah,
that's for us. There's no point in saying we're perfect. We're not. But I think we're highly purpose driven. And I
purpose
think we
driven.
feel
Yeah.
that. So tourism, and this is the thing, tourism does not serve science. Tourism helps science and science helps tourism. So it is something that people quite a lot confuse on the integration of whale watching and science and whale watching is not despite being a tourism company, we do science. No, it is because we're a tourism company, we do science. And I think it's quite important to value this because a lot of tourism companies in whale watching do an amazing work on research. And not often they're like almost considered like a supplier of data and not real scientists. So we have our own real scientists in house and we connect with universities, research centers all across the world. But science begins in the tourism company. And I think this
Yeah.
is really important.
Yeah, exactly. And then, well, of course, you are a tourism company. So, how do you involve guests in your research? How does this work?
Oh, that's the thing that it's harder to do. And so there are guests and there are guests. We have something called Be a Marine Biologist for a Day, in which you can be with the team. So you go whale watching and then you do different activities, games with sounds, with, photo ID. That one is really, really, I would say, the most immersive experience that you can have. Then we have coastal cleanups that we do monthly during winter time, and we actually invite our community to do that. And of course, also tourists that are here. We actually designed a program called Gardens of the Azores. For that, this year we pledged, it was 14 tourism companies, and it was 92 or 94,000 euros of commercial value and experiences for our community. So is actually something, it was the first Portuguese award at the World Travel Market Responsible Awards a couple of years
Yeah.
ago. And it was actually designed by me for my son. So it's, again,
Right.
everything in Futurismo tends to have a deeper meaning because it was one of us that did that. In this case, it was Nui, which is the operational director. and it was designed for my son, but actually also for my colleagues Anna son and my former colleague Sandrina daughter. So they were playing along, you know, picking up garbage, and they were looking at that and like, we could do something here. So we actually designed that, and people can join that. So we want to do that. In whale watching, there's different ideas. I think when you're going out looking for the whales, you're actually quite immersed. You're in the flow because you are looking with our team, and I think naturally you become immersed and you are within the flow of the experience. Unless, of course, and people forget this, we are in North Atlantic, so you cannot be in the state of flow if you are seasick, which actually happens quite a lot. And so, people sometimes they neglect this small detail, which is North Atlantic waves. Of course, we prepare that, but at the end of the day, it's adventure travel. You're not going to a park, you're going to the wild ocean. I think that's actually what makes also people more thrill about it. So we have done in the past different experiences, but for instance, if you are getting seasick, if we give you like a smartphone or a recording device for you to record the number of animals, etc., if you are looking to the screen, you're actually
You get sick.
more seasick. So we have been trying to see how this can work better, because also we want to avoid paper. So that's one of the things, not just because of paper, also because of paper. Actually, nowadays, when you do our check-in at our store, you don't get like a paper tag, you get like a wooden tag with the boat, the name that was done by a local
Yeah.
artisan. So actually
Nice.
have hundreds of them for the boats. And so the paper is gone in that way. But imagine that you're registering things in paper in the boat, and the paper just starts flying to the ocean.
Yep.
So
Gets wet. Yeah.
yeah, and it's all of this that we need to be careful. We have to think about apps, about different things, but at the end of the day, it's we have to do things slowly. So it's bringing people together during the briefing. So in the anticipation phase of the experience, we send information to the persons, to every single guest. During the participation, it starts out with the briefing, safety briefing, expectation, just management. It's quite important. So, for instance, I told you that we have fact sheets for every single species of cetaceans that go through the Azores, and we actually have the swimming and diving profile of every single animal. That was actually designed by Georgina, you know, personal opinion, but one of our most
Mm.
special marine biologists is Spanish. She is an artist and a marine biologist. And we actually asked her if she wanted to do that, because it makes way more sense, instead of going to a book, to have this designed by someone that daily sees them. So why did that? We want people to understand that whale watching is actually not going to a circus. You won't see the full whale. You won't see, the whale spinning just for you. No, it's not the way it works. And we make sure to say this to the public. Of course, you can ask me, does everyone go to that specific page? Of course not. We have a massive website. We have 130,000 visits a month, which is quite good. We have, last time we checked, 11% went to sustainability projects, which is, of course, quite interesting. We're talking about at least 10,000 persons a month that at least click there. And that, I think, we can actually touch people with. And during the briefing, again, we do that expectation management. And we have a clear policy, which is if we don't see cetaceans, dolphins, or whales, we actually give another tour for free.
Yeah, because I was asking, do you offer guaranteed sightings? But you do then, because you offer.
Yeah, we have a success rate of roughly 98%. So, and why is that? Because we only go out when the lookouts, which are in the island, so the lookouts that we use are actually the system of lookouts of the whale hunting. Some of them are, I think we still have one or two that are alive and working on this. But, nowadays for us, it's a younger generation. And our head lookout, Roberto, actually learned with a lookout from whale hunting. And our first lookout was actually a former whaler also. And we had actually different people working at Futurismo that were whalers, and they transformed to whale watchers. So when we go out, these guys already spotted something. Of course, from the time you go out to the time that you get there, they can have disappeared. Of course, they're wild animals.
Yeah.
We don't lure them with anything. Then we have, of course, hydrophones that we try to use to get to them. And we have different boats. So the way we actually also work is we have roughly 7 boats, 8 boats in the South Coast, and they all go out in different times because we don't want to overcrowd the animals, and we don't want also to overcrowd the check-in. So we always have like a Zodiac and the Catamaran going first. Half an hour later goes the second wave, third wave, fourth wave. And so when the first arrives, he sees the animals and the exits to allow the others to enter. So the animals has 2 boats from our side there, but he also tells the others that are coming. So the animal is going, is swimming west or south or north. And so between the lookouts, the hydrophones and the boats, we try to communicate. And we have actually videos of them. They know the animals quite well. That actually we have one of our marine biologists, Lucas, just showing off to the guests, and he is like this, and he's like, what, like 3, 2, 1, and you see a bridge, a sperm whale just breaching, just behind his finger, and the guy's laughing. So these
Nice.
guys
Yeah.
work daily, and they're quite passionate. So it's this mix of scientific data, cultural background with the lookouts, and
Yeah.
expertise that makes this a success. So
Yeah.
that's why it happens.
Okay. And then you said you have a limit number of 2 boats per group of pot of whales that you spot, but then that's for your company only. So how does it work with competitors in the same bay, for example?
So in the Azores, the law of whale watching is actually quite robust, quite good. It's I can arguably say it's one of the best in the world because it was done following some really great examples all across the world. And again, during our briefing and in our website, we also have videos, diagrams that show guests how we can approach. And we actually ask the guests and we empower them to see what we're doing, for them to fully
Yeah.
understand. And if you're thinking, okay, but this way they can also actually police you and complain about you. Yes, they can.
Yeah.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
That's actually the idea. Most whale watching companies here will respect all the rules. They can hate each other in land, but in sea, they will try to make the best to respect each other, to respect the animals above and beyond. I think, it's something that happens here. Of course, we have more than two examples that probably are not doing this, but the full force of them are doing. And we have in San Miguel 2022 boat slices. There can be no more than these boats. So this actually also helps. And companies try to scatter themselves to the south. The north, we have a boat there throughout summertime, but the north is more ruthless in terms of sea conditions. It's an amazing place for sperm whales, especially, but it's trickier to go out on the north. And clients, it's always the same question. Oh, but if the north is better for sperm whales, why don't we go? Yeah, because the sea conditions are hard to handle.
Yeah.
To this day, as workers, like Marinho, which is our head skipper, Marinho works on the company for 25 years. So when this guy says the sea is not worthy today, yeah,
It's not.
it's not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So
actually,
what kind of what
yeah,
kind of travelers do you attract? So is it very diverse, or is it really specific adventures, or
it's completely diverse. It's completely diverse. And in all honesty, we want it to be like that because the first time we launched a catamaran in the Azores, we were the first, and it was around 2010. And whale watching was done specifically in zodiacs. And people were like, oh, big catamarans. And, our big catamaran is 64 seats. It's a 16-meter long catamaran. But we introduced catamarans for a very simple reason. We wanted to democratize whale watching. So think about ribs. If you're pregnant, you cannot go. If you're a
Yeah.
very small child, you cannot go. If you're in a wheelchair, you cannot go. If you have back problems, you cannot go. If you are elderly, you cannot go. And if I have a small boat, I cannot help my community. So think about catamarans right now. So
Yeah.
you can have wheelchairs, which actually are really hard to put there, but we try
You
to not a
can.
lot,
Yeah.
but you can with a lot of physical effort from the staff. You can take people with back problems. You can
Yeah.
take pregnant women. You can take schools. We last year we gave 32,000 euros on tickets
For
and
schools. Yeah.
hours for projects. And actually, during July, August, June, September, we're always taking small groups of local children. We're taking vulnerable audiences from our community because at the end of the day, if we have 76 seats and if we give 15 of them to our community, you can still make money that helps you. And, at the end of the day, if you don't make money, you cannot support this infrastructure. But it allows you to gain some scale that you can maximize what you're doing. And even, the idea of valuing the A's or so whale watching for us next year will be 70 euros. And we have 28 species of cetaceans going by. You go to Iceland, you go to Norway, and the prices are way better than this for the local companies. They make double, triple what we do. So, and at the end of the day, we are a great example. And sometimes we think small because we're islanders, we're here in the middle. That's a thing for us. And I think one of the things that Futurismo has been trying to do is not to think small, is to go after things, is to try and prove not the world, but the Azorians that we can be a really good example worldwide. So,
Yeah.
for
And you
instance,
are. Yeah.
I think we are. So, getting back to the clients. So, we can have a guy that just comes here and wants the cheaper price for a whale watching tour. He doesn't care. He wants to see a tail. That's it. And we have royal families, for instance, which, they want full privacy. So from all of this and all of these types of clients, the guy that just wants to see a tail, whatever, the royal family, the rich customers, the normal clients, the multi-gen clients, the Portuguese, the Americans, the Canadians, the Saudi, the Japanese, we've got it all. Nothing changes in a way that you should act. You teach them not, you don't teach them about the whales alone. You don't teach them about just the journey from whaling to conservation. You actually teach them, or you try to teach them, the deeper meaning of what is happening right there. You try to teach them the intrinsic value of those animals. You try to teach them what they do for us, humanity. If you want to play with them, and it's something I like to do, you teach them, for instance, or you try to explain that they are not something you're seeing, that actually your mentors. In this aerial journey that I was talking about, so a guide is a mentor. But why not a whale also? If you think about, for instance, the vagal system, nervous system, which is something that all mammals have, that just regulates our energy, makes us live in community. So you see that in the mammals, in the whales, in the dolphins. You're seeing them playing with each other, and it is impossible not to feel, like, oh, and you feel that. And why not? They're not an attraction, they're the mentors that help
Yeah.
us change you. So at the end of the day, I think that's the most important thing that Futurismo has understood for years and years, which is our mission. We don't pledge transformation. We try to guide them. We can do better still. But I think if you go to our reviews, what makes us happier, it's a lot of them will have the marine biologists and the skippers' names. they will express emotions. And it is something funny that it happens. We actually have a system to collect reviews. We could do way better, to be honest. It's what it is. But we actually have a system in place, and it is done post participation. So in the reflection phase of the experience, so anticipation, participation, reflection, we have mapped all of that, of course, and we actually send them in the reflection phase that we want to improve. And it is funny when we say that we will send, the number of reviews it's smaller. When we surprise them, is actually higher. So for years and years, we have been trying to, to find the way to get to people. We are not doing everything correctly, but I think we're doing something correct.
Yeah. No, that sounds really good. I think the whole silver lining in your story is that you make everything really personal so that you have personal connections with your staff, but also personal connections with your travelers. And that, but because you're doing everything from the heart or from your passion, that sounds like a really great company. But specifically on the whale watching operations, we kind of skipped on it a little bit before, but you mentioned that the Azores have very clear whale watching guidelines, but we all know that whale watching can be controversial if done poorly. So, what are for you the key guidelines you follow to ensure that the tours are responsible?
It is not just us, it's the Azorians, the company. So there's approaches zone that you can follow. So if the animal is going like this, you can just approach from here. And you have to obey this very, very strictly. If the animal comes to you, you have to stop the boat. You cannot be moving with the animal. You have to stay as, it's in the ocean. You have to stay as still as you can. You cannot make a lot of noise. You cannot chase them. You cannot separate or isolate a single individual, especially if it is like calls from adults. You cannot swim with whales. You can still swim with dolphins. I'll get back to this. You cannot use sonars. You cannot do night observation. In the approach, you have to keep like, I think it's a roughly 160 degrees free area. You cannot change direction really quick. You cannot exceed the speed of the animals. You cannot reverse the engine suddenly. So, you cannot be closer than 50 meters the most. So, all of this has to be done. So, going back to swimming dolphins is allowed in the Azores under strict conditions. We can only put two persons in the water at the time, etc. And we used to do that until 2, 3 years ago. So I have a postgraduate in environmental ethics, for instance, in all the marine biology students we have. There is no study in the Azores about the impact, and that was for us the problem. So we used to do, we actually, if you went, the page is now down, but if you went to Swimming with Dolphins page in our website, we had something like animals are the most important, marine biologists coming second. You, the customer, are the least important. We actually had this, and people would book. Even at 100 euros, way more expensive than whale watching. And why did we stop? First, we could not control the behavior of persons. So, because it was not like, okay, you're going swimming with dolphins and you really want to slap in the water and do noises. It was not because of that. It was because you would really get emotional. And people could not control that. And we could not control that.
Like
So,
excitement.
yeah, good excitement. Not like I want to ride the
Yeah.
animal, not like that. Because in all honesty, you cannot touch the animal. You cannot. It's impossible, in all honesty. They're huge, they're fast. So, and, it's swimming with dolphins, but it is like more floating with dolphins because you cannot even actively go towards the animal. We forbid that. So, but you could not control people behavior. And there was no credible studies. So roughly 2, 3 years ago, we took the decision to stop swimming with dolphins because of that. It is still done in the Azores by 1, 2 companies. They try to do the best they can, in all honesty. It's a choice. It's legal in the Azores. But in terms of approach to whales during whale watching, you cannot swim with them. and the rules are very strict.
It kind of surprises me that the Azores has such strict rules for the whales, but then swimming with dolphins is still allowed. Do you know why that is? Why they distinguish?
It's different animals. They're quite different. Dolphins, depending, they come to you, they like to play, etc. The question then becomes the stress if it is too much. So that's why we stopped that, because sometimes even to go and try to put people to swim, you have to speed up the boat a little. But at the end of the day, every person that went swimming with dolphins would come back a transformed person. The impact on your vision of the world is amazing, because it's not a park. You go to the ocean, you are slapped in by waves. The animals in the water, this dolphin does whatever he wants to you. It's, you're not in control. You can really create ambassadors for the ocean, but it's all the rest that you cannot control. So that's
Yeah,
why we
yeah.
stopped.
Yeah, that sounds like a solid decision. I think that's what's also what you said before, that in the end, it's about the animal first. What you said, the tourist is not the most important aspect of this experience. And I think that's a really good statement to make, because I feel, and we see that a lot also, for example, in Africa with safaris, that they really put the traveler first, or the opportunity to make the perfect picture. And I think it's really refreshing to have a company that says, like, the animal is the most important part, then the research and marine biologist, and then you, and you just have to deal with it. And if you do, you'll have a great experience. But I think that's a really strong statement.
People like that. Of course, we are not walking around with a stick beating people up. It's not like that. So we try to make the most for them to feel comfortable, secure, safe, inspired. But it is important for people to understand, if not, we're not doing anything in whale watching, that they're not just going to a tourism attraction. They're seeing special animals, they're learning about the culture of a place. They're getting a little of a sense of place, and they are learning about how to be stewards of the oceans.
And are you thinking about how this might change, for example, like with the weather or migration patterns, climate change, that everything that impacts the whales? Is it already happening? Or, yeah, what's your take on that?
3 weeks ago in Pico Island, we had the meeting, which is called the Whales Biannual Meetings. And this year, scientists and companies, that was discussed. So we're trying to see the changes. We are recording them. We have seen that some animals are coming earlier, some are coming later, still within some patterns. But for instance, it was being discussed where our whales are coming from. And some of them were coming from North Africa. And one of the things I remember from the conversation, and bear in mind, I'm not a scientist. So if anyone is seeing this, I'm incorrect, I apologize. But for what I remember, whales have at least 10 years of memory that impacts their behavior. So the problem here might be that future impacts can already be imprinted in them, because scientists here have been able to see that they have at least 10 years of memory in their behavior. So who knows that we are not seeing right now, but like in 10 years' time, something changes drastically. So it is being studied in the Azores by companies, by scientific research centers. It's something that, of course, concerns us, because if no whales, no business, let's be very honest. And sometimes people think about what is the importance of tourism, and it might be something that at the very first look you don't think about, but that's an impact of whale watching. Then you think, for instance, we buy our picnics from a social institution called Social Dawn in English. We use local, guys to fix our boats, to sew our clothes that we give to our clients, to repair the engines, to repair the floaters, to just think about all that a single tourism company touches. And so the idea of not having whales, of course, it is something that we are concerned, but also you have to keep in mind that the Azores have now one of the largest protected areas in the world. So 30% of our sea is now protected. It's unique. example in the world. Of course, we want more from the regional government, and we are always saying that having it does not mean that is rightly managed. So we need to enforce the law. But I think the Azores are, giving small steps to be a good example.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I also think that you put a lot of effort in the people, planet, profit, and that keeping this in balance basically really makes sure that you actually take care of your people, you make a profit, but that it's all about the wildlife in the end. So I think it's a really great example. And I think there are a lot of whale watching companies and also in general companies that focus on wildlife watching can learn a lot from this. So thank you very much for sharing all of this. It's been very interesting and I look forward to see where it goes. I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. There's a lot we can learn from companies like Futurismo Azores Adventures and how they balance offering responsible whale watching, contributing to scientific research and the local community, while offering an amazing inclusive experience. If you're enjoying the podcast, like and share this episode and subscribe to our channel to not miss any of the future episodes. Thank you for listening and hope to see you next time.